All right, y'all. So I've been really tapping into this energy for a couple days now, and I feel like it's very heavy throughout the collective. And this message really does feel like it's for the ones who are learning the difference between receiving guidance and surrendering their own inner knowing. This is so imperative as we move forward in our ascension individually. That we do keep all of these messages and all of these insights, from other people, that we do keep hold of our own intuition. All right. And this really does feel like a message for someone who's been deep in their spiritual journey, for someone who's opened themselves up to the healing, to the transformation, the self reflection, any mentors, spiritual teachings, or emotional processing. But I feel like we are arriving at a threshold where spirit is asking us, can we still hear underneath all of the noise? All right. So let's just really get into the reading, because really what I'm seeing is someone who spent a long time learning how to navigate their energy, and not just external energy, but your internal energy as well. And that's where things can get the most chaotic, the inner world. And so the first card that we have here is the King of Cups. And with this King of Cups in particularly, I immediately feel a sacred stillness. If you can see him, he's alone in his own little world, in his own emotional world too, with him sitting in the water. This is not someone who's disconnected from emotion. This is someone who has become deeply intimate with their emotional world. Someone who understands that your inner waters affect everything. So it's so important that we do these check-ins, that um, you know, to check in our emotional world, to check in and see like what's going on in there. What is anything muddy in there? Um, so yeah, you understand that your relationships, your creations, your nervous system, your manifestations, intuition, the ability to lead and to love. You know, everything is affected by that. If your inner waters are not pure, if they're you need to filter them, is what I'm getting. So the King of Cups understands that emotional regulation is spiritual work. Protecting your peace is spiritual work. Resting, most importantly, is spiritual work. Discernment, most of all, is spiritual work. And this energy feels like someone who has learned the hard way what happens when too many outside voices gain access to your inner world. But because I really do feel like at one point, this person was incredibly open, and there are times throughout our journey, where we're open to people, we're open to opinions and to guidance and to projections. And sometimes we're even open to carry emotions that are not even ours. But eventually, our waters will get muddy. Our nervous system will become overstimulated. Our intuition can be hard to hear underneath all of the noise of everyone else's interpretations. But the King of Cups retreats, and that's what's so special about this one, is that he can tell when, you know, the waters are murky, when his emotional world and his inner world is filled with a lot of things that are not his. It gets to be too heavy. And I feel that this message is deeply for someone who has recently come out of a very expansive period, or just maybe an expansive experience. Maybe you've been around others in spiritual gatherings, or you're going through a season of emotional openness, or a period where many people have been reflecting things back to you. And again, this is all fine, but the spirit is really saying that we need to go within and retreat. All right. And yes, some of these experiences may have been beautiful, and some of these things may have resonated, but spirit is saying, it's okay. It's okay if some of it didn't resonate as well. Not every observation that someone makes about us is automatically our truth. And even well intentioned people can project their own framework onto us, whether that's healers, readers, mentors, even tarot readers, right? You guys have to be careful with what it is that we are consuming in the tarot world, because everyone may have good intentions, but some people can only read as far as their consciousness has evolved. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the message is for you. But what I do love about this energy is that I don't see someone who's reacting out of defensiveness. I see someone who's checking in with what resonates. And that really is different because there's a mature energy that says someone, some of this resonates deeply and some of it just simply does not. And what that is it's discernment. Okay. It's emotional intelligence. It's your sovereignty. And then let's see what's next. All right. That was a lot from that King of Cups. Okay. Beautiful. So next we have the Nine of Cups. And this is such a beautiful card. This feels like someone who is connecting back to what actually does nourish them, not what looks spiritual, or sounds profound or gains any approval, or not even what you feel like other people, should feel. Not like, so I really do feel like this is genuine nourishment. It's the kind that really does soften the body, it regulates the nervous system, the one that brings your spirit back into coherence. I love that word, coherence. This energy really does feel like someone who's realizing, like, my peace is sacred. And because of that, you're becoming more intentional about what enters into your field, the conversations that you entertain, the energies that you absorb, the guidance that you internalize, the labels that you accept, the identities that you allow to stick to you, right? And I really keep hearing that everything does not deserve access to your psyche. Guys, we got to protect our psyche. Even when we do open ourselves up to the messages, to the guidance, to the insights, right? There's a certain amount of penetration that we should allow that to go into our psyche. There should be a filter or some sort of boundary, before you really do let that affect your inner world, because you'll see those projections in your external world. Some of us have spent years over identifying with these external interpretations. People who are telling you who you are, or what wounds you are, or what wounds you have, or the patterns, or what your healing should look like. And while the reflection can absolutely be valuable, there comes a point where overanalyzing disconnects you from your own signal. Okay. And we really need to stay connected to our own intuition, our own source light. Okay. All right. And so now we have the Queen of Swords. And I love this energy because this is the one that has discernment. Okay. The Queen of Energies is sharp as hell. Okay. She's clear. She's disciplined. She's observant. Again, the Queen of Swords does not move impulsively. She doesn't move based off of emotions, right? So if someone says something that's triggered you, you don't make a decision off of emotions. Maybe that trigger was because it didn't resonate. Or maybe the trigger was because, it did resonate. It does happen sometimes. But this is someone who quietly has analyzed energy for a very long time. If you can see, it even looks like she's analyzing energy, literally. Like there's a ball of energy and she's looking at some paper. She's studying something. Um, but she's someone who can feel when something begins to disrupt their inner harmony, before anyone else can see it. And the King of Swords, I'm sorry, the Queen of Swords energy, it feels like someone who's reclaiming their inner authority over their own narrative. Okay. We are the narrator of our own story. And what we allow people to write in our books or in our chapters will greatly affect us we, um, if we're not discerning. Okay. Period. If we're just not discerning what the message is. Um, but she doesn't do this from ego. She does this from clarity. And I really just keep hearing, just because someone else sees something in me does not mean it belongs to me. Let's say that again. I feel I got the chills. Just because someone sees something in me does not mean it belongs to me. And that's the message. And honestly, I do feel like many people watching this have entered spiritual spaces where they can sometimes be unconscious. There can be an unconscious tendency to interpret everything psychologically. And that will drive you nuts. Like we're not in a world where everything can be, you know, psychologically analyzed or summed up. So if you have boundaries, like sometimes people be like, well, if you have boundaries, then you fear intimacy. Or if you need solitude, then you're avoiding vulnerability. Or if you question guidance, then you're resistant, right? Or if you pull away, then you have wounds. Like this is just some of the things that I hear within the spiritual community. but sometimes we are just simply discerning. Sometimes someone has cultivated peace, we've cultivated this peace intentionally and no longer want every external perspective entering our world. And I feel like the Queen of Swords is making a decision. She's making a really calm and balanced decision. She's got this wolf or dog right here. It just, I don't know, it just seems like peace. It seems like a very calm energy. She's making a decision really to say that she's no longer available for constant interpretations. Oh, my God. Because I feel that someone recently here has experienced a moment where they realized, like, my nervous system has reached saturation. There's been too much emotional processing. Yeah, too much emotional processing, too much reflection, too much energetic openness, too much interpretation. Like sometimes our soul is just craving silence. And that's what I feel like someone is going through right now. Okay, and then we have the Knight of Swords. Whew. So this tells me that this decision that you are about to make, it may seem abrupt to other people. It may, look like sudden boundaries or pulling back, or maybe you need more space, or not attending something, right? Or maybe you just don't want any more downloads or interpretations. And to others, it may feel random, it may feel abrupt, but spirit really is saying, like, no, this is what your higher self has been observing the whole time. This is not an impulsive decision. This is accumulated awareness. This is someone who is finally recognizing, like, I do not need to consciously dissect myself in order to evolve. You're here to live, and I promise you, your higher self is guiding you along the way. Every Your future has already been paved. So, like, whatever it is that you're doing, just continue to do it. You don't have to dissect every single action or emotion that you feel. Just live life. I really do feel like that's what we need to be doing. So really, it's wise for you to do this. It really is, because not every season is meant for excavation. Some seasons really are meant for embodiment. Some are meant for integration, and again, some of them are really just meant for living. And do we remember what living looks like? Like, do we? Living, laughing, creating, like resting, parenting, building, making art, dancing, being present in your body. Not every moment needs to become a psychological case study. We need to understand this. Okay. Oh, this is your intuition. This card just makes me so excited. The High Priestess. And just look at the fierceness. Look at her. So, this feels like the true initiation of the reading, okay? Because now Spirit is asking you to trust like to trust the oracle within yourself. The High Priestess does not chase answers. She really does become still enough to hear them. She understands that the truth reveals itself naturally when her waters are calm. And this card feels deeply connected to someone who is claiming their inner authority. I'm not saying that you're rejecting guidance completely, but you're no longer outsourcing your own knowing. And that's the difference, really. The High Priestess is saying, no one has greater access to me than my own soul, right? Or no one has greater access to me than I do. And I think that's the whole experience that this has been teaching somebody. It's discernment, not rebellion, not to distrust, but discern. And because I feel that your intuition is sharpening right now, your sensitivity may be increasing, and your nervous system is becoming more intelligent. You can immediately feel when something resonates and when something creates contraction. And your body knows the difference between feeling seen and then feeling interpreted, right? Like, I'm not a computer, okay? And it's really important to know that the High Priestess is that filter that I was talking about earlier. She listens inward first. So when something comes to the High Priestess, it stops right there before you let it enter your inner world. All right. And what do we have at the bottom of the deck? Okay, this is a new deck, and it is a tarot deck, but it has a card. It has two extra cards in here. One is called the Celestial Weaver, and I do know I'm getting familiar with this. The Celestial Weaver is all about um, your thoughts weaving, your thoughts, your emotions, just everything, your intentions weaves the creation of your reality. So I feel like this is extremely significant because this card honestly feels like your higher self is speaking directly to you, especially coming after the high priestess. This is the card I do feel like is your higher self. So for the celestial weaver to come in right after that, it is like your higher self is saying, because of, after all of this emotional processing, after all of the discernment and all of this recalibration, spirit is really just reminding you that you're not here to endlessly absorb energy. You're here to create. This is manifestation in its purest form. You're not forcing outcomes. You're not controlling reality. You're not bypassing any emotions. You are consciously weaving. Understand that, again, every boundary, every belief, every action, environment, relationships, self sabotaging, and even the moments when we honor ourselves, they really do become like a thread in our tapestry of our reality. And I feel like this is a huge shift that's happening for a lot of us in the collective. You're moving from tell me who I am into more of that, like, I trust who I am, like, I know who I am. And that's the embodiment. That is the evolution. You're becoming more intentional with what threads that you continue into your life, more intentional with what narratives you accept, more intentional with what energy gains access to your field. And just again, be consciously aware of what you are opening yourself up to, okay? Your manifestations are cleaner, your nervous system is softer, your intuition is stronger, and your creativity is more magnetic. And really, this entire reading feels like someone who is returning home to themselves after a season of immense openness. I think you can close it up a little bit. You can just start to, bring your energy, bring your field back into your center. Not necessarily saying you need to shut down or to become cold or anything, or not to reject any healing, but just simply realize, like, I have enough for now. I need my own space to hear my own soul again. And spirit is saying that that is not resistance. That really is true wisdom. And because this next chapter in your life does not feel centered around proving your spirituality, it feels more centered around embodying your truth quietly, very softly, um, with clarity, and very intentionally. Okay, so the King of Cups, the King of Cups protects the waters. We're going to just start to wrap the reading up. The King of Cups protects your waters. The Queen of Swords, she filters what enters the mind. The High Priestess trusts that inner knowing. The Celestial Weaver is consciously creating reality from that space. Um, and, this Knight of Swords, again, may just feel like it has been abrupt. It might look super different for people outside, on the outside. I see that you're someone who is remembering, sorry, your inner world, and that is super sacred. And from that sacred space, you can now begin really to weave an entirely different reality. So I'm just going to leave the message right here. Just remember to hold strong to your intuition. Keep that boundary up. Let that high priestess and that queen of swords do the work for you. Let them filter what resonates and what doesn't, not out of emotion, really, but out of discernment. So I look forward to making more videos for you all. I love you guys. You have a beautiful day. Bye.